welcome to WrestleMania.
How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me is Leonard. This is a show about wrestling. And for wrestling fans, there is no bigger night/weekend at this point than WrestleMania weekend. And as a result, Leonard and I have viewed some of the festivities, if not all, and we are going to talk about them today for you, as I'm sure a lot of people are, but our opinions are better. Right, Leonard?
Usually,
right.
I mean, I want to be honest. I want to be 99.9% of the time.
Right.
Occasionally, someone else will say something that makes sense, but it's right.
Well, let's start with what was technically the beginning of the weekend, which was Smackdown on Friday, April 1st. And the reason we need to talk about this is because it opened with the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which, as history has proven, means absolutely nothing. And, you know, as battle royals go, it was about a 2-star affair for me. The winner was Madcap Moss. And it's interesting that they had him win over people like Finn Balor and others, because in the last segment of the night, it was a happy talk segment with Baron Corbin and Madcap Moss. And Drew McIntyre came down. It was a build for the McIntyre-Corbin feud, but Drew McIntyre came down and with one punch knocked Madcap Moss on his butt, you know. And so, like, you just have this guy win the Battle Royal, which they want you to believe is somewhat of a stepping stone, and yet one punch will get him down. So I don't really know what the Andre the Giant Battle Royal signifies at this point. If anything, it's just kind of like, well, we've been doing it, so let's just keep doing it.
Yeah, it seems to be odd. Like, if you go back, and I think we did this last year. Like, we looked at the list of winners, and it's just a really eclectic list.
Oh, yeah.
You know, at one point, it seemed like a lifetime achievement thing. You know, Big Show won it, Matt won it. And then it seemed like, oh, well, maybe we're going to give this to, like, that mid-card guy that we're interested in.
Right.
And now it's just like, well, Moss is involved in the program that we're giving time to via Corbin and McIntyre. So why don't we give him something?
Right. Yeah. And it's that's pretty much the way you can look at it. And I don't know what they're going to do with Madcap Moss. I mean, if you look back in history of the King of the Ring winners, that by and large, those guys have gone on to enjoy pretty great careers. Such is not the case with the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, but who knows? Maybe Madcap Moss is on the rise and we don't know it. The next match immediately following this was for the Intercontinental title, and it was a triple threat match between Ricochet, the champion, and Angel and Humberto. They are a tag team, Los Lotharios. So this was for the IC title. Ricochet retains here. I rated about 2.5 stars. They didn't get a ton of time. A lot of partner stuff between Los Lotharios. You know, they kind of flirted with them going at it, but that never really happened. So I think that it is a big problem when your IC title can't be on either night of WrestleMania, and it's now 2 nights. Like, that is a problem to me. It would be a problem to me. Like, I realize you can't fit everything. We can fit Corbin and Drew McIntyre, but we can't fit the IC title, which, you know, has history dating back to, you know.
Well, considering both nights were right around, you know, the 3-hour mark.
Right.
And we're only, 8 matches per night. So when you consider a few years ago, they were a lot longer and more bloated.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was okay for what it was. And the rest of the SmackDown card, I'm not going to go over the rest of that. There was a couple tag team matches, a lot of build packages for what would be WrestleMania. And so then right after that, if you have the Peacock Network, you would see the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony and this year's inductees. It started out with the Steiner brothers, and then Queen Charmel, and then the Warrior Award, which was given to Shad Gaspard, Vader, and then the Undertaker. And the Steiners, it was good to see them win. It was good to see them get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And
despite Scott owing you $20.
Right. He owes me $20. But you know what? Like, for the cow story, I'm willing to let that go.
That had nothing to do with anything.
But you know what? Years ago, we loved that sort of stuff. At least I did. Those sort of nothing stories that had nothing to do with anything. That's why I watched the Hall of Fame, was to see these old timers ramble about stuff that we were never supposed to hear about before. But now they have to really go quickly. They only get a few minutes. And so now, in context, that story looks like it was just out of left field, which it was. But
it seems like that's probably the cleanest story that Scott Steiner had.
Yeah.
like, do you have any stories that doesn't involve like swearing, drinking, drugs, sex? Well, I got this story about me and Macho Man some cows. Right.
Yeah. And so you had Queen Charmel, which was I'm just gonna say I think that's the biggest kind of WTF entry this year. I guess
pretty much ever. I looked. I went over the entire, and this is talking the main hall, because they have their legacy wing, they have their celebrity wing, they have specialties. But she's in the main regular hall. And I would say that she is, and I actually told you we should rank like the worst Hall of Fame inductees. But I looked, and she's, for me, would be a clear number one.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just because they want to keep Booker T around, or they want to keep him happy. I don't know. I don't want to, speculate other than that, but it is what it is. The Warrior Award, well deserved. Shad Gaspard. It was cool to see his son and the other member of Crime Time do the Crime Time handshake. That was pretty neat. Those guys had a huge fan base, but I thought it was a really cool moment to see. And of course, then we had Vader. It was really great to see Vader's family up there again. Well deserved. Should have been in before he passed.
Well, do you know about the tweet that Nikki Bella sent?
No.
Nikki's the one who was dating John Cena, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Nikki thought Vader was alive.
Yeah. No. Well, that's
because she said a tweet that she was excited to hear, like you were just saying, like these stories from these old guys from different generation, blah blah blah, and tweeted as if he was alive. Now, I that was actually mentioned on Jim Cornette's podcast, which I know you don't like me listening to. So I didn't read what like reactions were or what people tweeted her back.
Wow.
But they read the actual tweet and she thought Vader was alive.
That doesn't surprise me as much as it probably should. And then we end with the Undertaker, who went long, and you know what? A lot of people were some people were complaining about that, but you know what? We waited a long time to hear straight from Mark Calloway and not have him be in character. So I was perfectly fine with him going long. Vince's opening speech there, he mentioned Shotgun Saturday Night. I believe that's the first time Shotgun Saturday Night's been mentioned on any WWE programming, probably since it was around.
I've watched old Shotguns, and they're excellent. I enjoy Shotgun Saturday Night.
Yeah, and the Undertaker referred to one of his matches as a squash match, like just very briefly, and then he corrected himself, enhancement match, which I thought was funny. Again, see us. It's cool to hear from the guy himself. But I thought it was a good speech, and it was heartfelt, and I think that anybody in the back, Vince probably was just like, you know what, you go and let him talk as long as he wants.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know that it was kind of up in the air who was going to induct him. A lot of people thought it was going to be Kane, because apparently Vince, and again, this was from Cornette's podcast, that, and Cornette was there when they were doing them, that Vince always refused to induct someone. That he said, don't ask me to do it, I won't do it. So the
Right.
fact that he did for Undertaker, I think, is huge for both of them. I think that says a lot about the relationship that they have. Now, I know you mentioned about hearing from Mark Calloway, the man. We've been hearing from Mark Calloway, the man, since he retired.
That's true. The documentary gave you a lot of insight into
that. And he's done the Broken Skull sessions with Austin. He did Hot Ones. If you haven't seen that, where you eat the hot wings for the interview. So he's done a lot of out character interview. It almost seemed like it was a dam that broke. Like he just, he's allowed to be him now, and he just wants to be him.
Right.
So that didn't really feel special to me because we've heard from Calloway, the man. I guess
it was special because he was inside a WWE ring.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's a fact that he was in his workplace, per se, as opposed to just doing, an interview with Austin or on TV or something like that. But yeah, I mean, that was about what I thought it was going to be. And I think, and I can't wait till they keep talking about it. Well, I don't know. It's more of a background thing about having an actual Hall of Fame you can go to. Like that memorabilia show they had seemed like it was pointed to we're collecting stuff for a physical Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because I would love to. As soon as they open a Hall of Fame, come get you. We're gonna go. I assume it's gonna be in Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, judging by all the stuff that they tracked down, I'm assuming they're going to do that something like with that at some point. And I'm definitely game to go whenever that opens. So Saturday, April 2nd, before WrestleMania Night 1, you had NXT Stand and Deliver 2022, and that kicked off. The pre-show started at about 12. So the pre-show did have a match. It was for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai reunited against Toxic Attraction, and Gonzalez and Kai would get the win there. Toxic Attraction, they've been the champions for a while. Decent for what it was. Nothing spectacular. About 2 3/4 stars for me. The main card started at 1. And you would start it off with the ladder match for the North American title, Santos Escobar versus Cameron Grimes versus Grayson Waller versus Carmelo Hayes versus Solo Sikoa. And there was a really, Grayson Waller had a jump off the ladder that looked really, really awkward. His landing, if anybody has seen it and knows what I'm talking about. You had, a bunch of outside interference and whatnot. But Cameron Grimes would pick up the win here. This was typical for your ladder matches with a bunch of guys. Very much a car crash affair. Leonard and I have already talked about our opinions on such things. I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was entertaining, a good way to start off that card. Next up, you had Tony D'Angelo with AJ Galante versus Tommaso Ciampa. Now, Leonard, do you know who AJ Galante is?
No, everything you're saying is random words to me.
Right. So AJ Galante, he was in a documentary on Netflix about the hockey team that he created and the fact that his family had mob ties. The hockey team he created was the Danbury Trashers, because they owned a trash company. And so it's a really interesting documentary.
So why is he there?
Because Tony D'Angelo is supposed to be a pseudo mobster.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that's kind of the connection there. And this was apparently Tommaso Ciampa's last match. So, gosh, you got to have him go over. You got to have him job to the pseudo mobster guy who is clearly nowhere on the level of Tommaso Ciampa. This was about 2.5 stars. I didn't like the end of this simply because the old adage is that you have to job when you're leaving. And if it makes sense, I understand that. But in this case, it was just like, well, here's a guy we're somewhat high on right now. He has a pseudo mobster gimmick. The Sopranos was how many years ago? Anyway, D'Angelo's a little rough around the edges. So apparently this is the first time I have Peacock Premium Plus, Leonard, and that enables me to have no ads. We've talked about this off air a few times. And this is the first time watching an event where Premium Plus gave me anything other than 0 ads. So apparently, right after this, there was a moment where Ciampa was going back into the locker room, but he was stopped by Triple H. So he and Triple H had a moment, where they hugged and embraced, because I guess Tommaso Ciampa going to the main roster he's kind of the last of the Triple H guys. Mm-hmm. And I guess that was the point behind that moment, but you weren't supposed to see that necessarily unless you had Peacock Premium Plus for whatever reason. So, yeah.
Well, probably because they just let the feed go. I mean, you can't on a regular TV show or movie. Yeah, you don't get commercials, but on a live event, I assume you're just going to get the in between feed. It would be interesting. I don't know what else you have on live sports. I don't know. I know they have a soccer package, so it would be interesting to watch to see what you get.
Right. So after that, you had the NXT Tag Team titles on the line, triple threat match between the Creed brothers versus Imperium versus MSK. 3.5 stars here. Good work all around. MSK regained the tag team titles. After that, you had a vignette from Nikita Lyons, one of my favorite newcomers. Big fan of her talent, Leonard.
I am aware of, and yes, I would agree. I need to watch some more Nikita Lyons. I've only seen her debut, which I know got a lot of press.
Right. So. After that, you had the NXT Women's title on the line, Fatal 4-Way, Mandy Rose versus Kaylee Ray versus Io Shirai versus Cora Jade. Cora Jade is very green. I don't know a lot about her. There was some sloppy moments in this. I gave it 3 stars all around. But Mandy Rose retained as she should have. Kaylee Ray is really good, but I don't think any of these women were really ready to move up to that main spot, at least from what I could see. After this, they had something, Leonard, that I almost wish you would have seen it because you would have hated it. It was this vignette it was a mixed couple vignette where they were trying to pick the hottest couple or the hottest man who dressed as a cowboy, something like that. It was horrible. I'm not even going to mention the names. A couple of these people, I don't even know who they are. It was bad.
What was this now? They were just voting on.
There were 2 couples, and the women were trying to dress up their men as to be the best looking cowboy.
Why?
I don't know, because they were in Texas.
Because they were in Texas.
Right.
Okay.
So after that, you had Walter versus LA Knight. Walter is in. I'm going to keep calling him Walter. I don't care.
Walter.
He is in great shape. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and I call LA Knight Eli Drake.
There you go. Well, so if anybody's watched Walter's matches in the past, he's a big guy. He's really, really leaned out now. Really, really in great shape. This was about 3.25 stars. LA Knight was working hard here, but I enjoyed it for what it was. The main event was Braun Breaker versus Dolph Ziggler for the NXT title. Dolph Ziggler retains here. You saw the Frankensteiner. I gave this 3.75 stars. This was good work. And it was kind of shocking to see Dolph Ziggler retain. But then the festivities would continue later on that night. I believe the pre-show, which was no matches, was just kind of build packages, started at 6. The main card of WrestleMania 38, night 1, started at 8 o'clock at AT&T Stadium, and Bradley Gilbert opened by singing "America the Beautiful," and
he's docked.
It was, and you know what? I'm not going to bash him totally because I feel like wrestling events are hard to perform at. I've always, and it's not like it's the venue. I feel like it's the fans and the fact that not a lot of the fans probably knew who this man was, even though they lived in or around Texas.
Yes.
And I mean, I've been to a WrestleMania, and, P. Diddy performed at the one I was at. And even that was, it's odd to watch a concert at a wrestling event. It just is. But yes, Bradley Gilbert, and he was less than great. And Leonard and I were talking in a text, and I made a comment about how it's rare for anybody to sing this and be remembered. And you replied right away to the 2 or 3 people that I would have said.
Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, and Tito Santana's sister, Reba McIntyre.
Right. Like, yeah, those are the three. Like,
Those are the three. You know, and it's my wife kind of checked in and out as I was watching both nights. And she asked me about why are they singing America Beautiful and not the national anthem. And I said that they've always done that.
Yeah, I think that's just one of Vince's things.
Yeah.
And when you have a deal with Peacock, you get to have Mark Wahlberg do your opening video. Why? Mm-hmm. Because
he's plugging a movie.
Right. It's Father Stew in theaters soon. And then you had the Dallas cheerleaders. Not going to complain about that. It's just, I don't know. It's funny to me because they were always like kind of looking down upon the Nitro girls and stuff when they were around. But like, here you go, Dallas cheerleaders. Why? Because we can. That's I'm not going to.
You're in Dallas. They're iconic. I don't know. You're not going to trot out Dak Prescott. You know.
Yeah, that's it. Better if it's cheerleaders.
Yeah.
So your opening match would be for the SmackDown Tag Team titles, the Usos versus Nakamura and Rick Boogs. Leonard, what'd you think about this one?
I prefer the team name of Boogamura.
Yeah. They should be more.
You know, I told you this. Rick Boogs is my current favorite WWE wrestler, considering I've only seen him twice.
He was
at the Royal Rumble and here.
He was your favorite. Who knows how long he's going to be out?
Yes, true. You know, I think this makes a good opener because you've got three guys in Nakamura and the Usos who can work an up-tempo pace, a striking style, can work in some big moves, so can pop the crowd, wake them up, get them going. And then with Boogs, you've got a guy who is definitely on the rise. I mean, he got a great reaction from the crowd. They were into him. He's got a unique look, great power moveset. I loved how he was doing like that. And not only did he do a stalling suplex, he was kneeling. He was doing like, it's crazy. And then one thing I noticed when he did a pin, not only did he hook the leg, he took his other leg and draped it over the one Uso's leg. So he's doing a double leg hook.
Those little nuances are important.
Right. He was so good. And then, of course, the knee injury I thought was a work. I thought it was part of the story.
So did
I. I thought it was part of the storyline.
Later on, it seemed like they carried him out.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, ooh, maybe this was not supposed to happen.
Yeah. Because they established in the video package that he had faked a knee injury, but he had knee issues and et cetera. Right. So I thought it was part of the part of the plan. But this also gives you, depending on how long he's out, a lot of storytelling potential. You know, that's a good reason for them to get a rematch. Or you could have Nakamura turn on Boogs because he blames him for the loss. Or you could have Boogs saying, "Hey, I faked it and I turn on him because he's tired of carrying Nakamura." So you have a lot of storytelling potential out of this. This is one of those matches that during the time I thought it was okay, as it's kind of set with me a few days, especially considering the fact that the Usos and Nakamura had to rebook it on the fly, you know, what they were going to do with the Boogs injury. I thought this is a really good opener. It entertained me and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I gave this 2.25 stars. I thought it was too short. We know why it was probably short.
Yes.
I thought it was decent work. I thought it could have been better. That's not against Rick Boogs. It's just, it is what it is. I was hoping it would be a little bit better than what it was, but it was decent for what it was as well. So the next match, we would have Happy Corbin with Madcap Moss versus Drew McIntyre. I gave this 2 stars. I thought it was predictable. And, you know, these two guys are fine workers. I thought that this feud had run its course well before this. And I don't think anybody really gave a crap. And, you know, they had to have Drew McIntyre, you know, chop the ring ropes because I guess, you know, that meant something. But I thought this was predictable and kind of run of the mill. So
this was my least favorite match of night one and one of my least favorites overall on the weekend. And yeah, I think both of these guys, I think they've worked with each other so much, even though, I'm not watching the current product. I know this has been a long running feud.
Right.
So I think maybe they're just tired of working with each other. I think Drew McIntyre is probably not giving 100% right now. He has fallen a lot from WrestleMania a couple years ago. So I don't know how he's feeling in general. It felt kind of awkward, felt kind of disjointed. You had Moss jumping up on the apron at one point, which was a terrible distraction. Then Corbin yells at him, but nothing comes of that. I was like, oh, Moss is going to turn on him. And then he doesn't do anything. And then, two, when he gets up there, like the referee doesn't yell at him. Right. I don't know the name of the referee. It's one of the female referees. She's horrible. She's possibly the worst referee I've ever seen ever in professional wrestling because she stands there. She's always out of position. She doesn't do anything. Moss is on the apron. Tell him to get down. You know why she didn't? Because she knew what was coming.
Exactly.
That's why she didn't.
Yep. There are people. The timing of the talent, the timing of the referees is so out of whack and unfocused to me all across the board. And like the quality of the referees in WWE specifically has gone down so much over the years. Yeah. Like it's night and day when you watch WWE or any other promotion.
Well, and we're gonna talk later about the Rousey Flair match, of course, but who got that? Charles Robinson, because he's probably the only dude they can trust.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. But she really, like, I'm angry. You can hear the anger in my voice about how much I hate her. But yeah, it was just not a very good match at all. Like you said, I think the timing and the chemistry and everything in this was just off, and that's all to say considering that I know this has been a long running feud.
Right. Well, the next match we had Rey and Dominic Mysterio versus The Miz and Logan Paul. Up until this point, I would have called this the best match of the night. It was entertaining for what it was.
Yeah.
The turn at the end was blah to me. I don't
know. Did they explain that on Raw?
If they did it during a part that I wasn't watching. I saw The Miz come out. I don't remember if he said. I don't know if they're like going to have another match. I don't know who would care. But
it was confusing to me because Logan Paul is an A1 douchebag.
Right.
And Miz hits him with it and gets a face pop because of that.
Right.
To act like a heel. And then they cart Logan off like you would a face that got beat up.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to make Logan Paul a face, that's a bad idea because nobody's going to buy it.
A horrible idea. And then there was an exclusive interview clip with Logan Paul where he drops F-bombs. So they didn't show that many places. It was just, I don't know. It was just bad. But the match was fine for what it was. Logan Paul was okay in the ring. I would, put him on par with Bad Bunny in terms of his skill. He obviously worked hard to do that stuff. So,
well, him and Dominic both are, and Dominic should be further along than he is, but they do moves, but they don't know why they're doing the move.
Right.
They're not telling a story. They're just doing a move.
Right.
And this is actually one of the matches that my wife watched with me. She knows who Logan Paul is. And she hated Miz and Paul and wanted them to get beat up. And she liked the Mysterio. She liked the father and son connection that they had. And I said, see, that's them doing their job. Like, you don't know who this is. You sat down, and within seconds, she went, I hate those guys. I love those guys.
Right.
And they did their job. So, yeah, I was very entertained by this. I like this. I like The Miz. I know a lot of people don't. I think he does a good job, with his character. His ring work has vastly improved. I mean, he's pretty good anymore. This was good. My favorite spot was probably Paul doing the Three Amigos and then the frog splash, because that was crazy heat. I mean,
it was
dagger in the heart, man. That was a good call, I think, on letting him do that.
Yeah.
So like you, the the turn doesn't make sense, but the match itself was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and it's time for them to make a decision on Dominic Mysterio. I agree with you that he should be farther along than what he is. If you look at the two of them in the ring, yes, the father-son dynamic, it was fun for a while, but he's not his father's level in terms of in-ring.
No.
He's just not. And you know what? That's not a knock on Dominic Mysterio. We have to remember Rey Mysterio was wrestling in a ring since he was like 9.
And in Mexico and working with legendary luchadors and traveled all over the world and has worked with just so much different talent and from a different era. Dominic is learning the WWE style.
Exactly.
He wrestles like a WWE wrestler.
Right.
While Ray wrestles like Ray.
Right. Which is, the WWE style is just a whole nother conversation, I feel like. So after that, you had Stephanie McMahon come out and introduce Gable Steveson, who is an Olympic gold medalist and has made appearances. What's that?
He will flop. He will be the next bust.
Yeah, you see, and like they've been showing him here and there in the crowd for a while now, and I guess this is like the signal that they want to start putting him into matches. But if they are intending for him to have the same charisma as Kurt Angle, wrestling fans can tell right now that that's not the case.
Yep.
And what's funny to me is when I was watching this, they introduce him as like this Olympic hero and this Olympic gold medalist as a face. And that was specifically why they introduced Kurt Angle as a heel, because they knew that if they brought him out as this goody two shoes, the crowd would crap all over it and it wouldn't make any sense. They were like, you need to be cocky and conceited. And that's why Kurt Angle got over so quick.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens with Gable Steveson, but I don't have high hopes there. So after this, we would have the Raw Women's Title, big time Bex versus Bianca Belair. The entrances. This is where you would start with the very grand entrances. I really like this match. I gave it 4 stars out of 5, and I thought that this was really good work from both involved. I kind of figured where they were going as far as who would win. Bianca would defeat Becky Lynch, but I like this. What do you think?
This is my number 1 match of the weekend. It was fantastic from start to finish. I do think that we talked about this, that Becky Lynch looks like Gigi Dolan with the new hair. But I like the opening playing off of the SummerSlam match they had. I like Becky's urgency, how that sort of morphed into scared desperation.
Right.
There was good storytelling from the start. Bianca using the disarmor at one point, I thought was a cool idea. The hair pull spot on the outside with the throw into the steps was a good spot. Just the leg drop when Bianca was over the ropes and Becky hits her with the leg drop was a good spot. The second rope 450 was insane and should have been the finish. Some of these matches on the weekend suffered from false finishes. Here's the thing. Bianca hit something you've never seen before, and that doesn't get the win. But the thing she does every single night wins.
Right.
So if you're going to do something like that, man, it's got to be your finish. I give the announce team credit for trying to cover Becky's botch. It's when she was coming to the top rope, and they wound up calling it a top rope rolling thunder kick.
Yeah.
She missed. It's okay. It happens. But yeah, I just thought the storytelling for me, not only do they have a lot of background to use, but the storytelling of the match itself. I love the movesets, the eclectic movesets that both women used here. I thought this was just the most complete match of everything on the weekend.
Yeah, no, it was really good. So after this, you would have Seth Rollins versus a mystery opponent. We've been hearing rumors, and is it going to be Shane? Is it going to be Marco Stunt? Who knows who it's going to be? But it ended up being Cody Rhodes. Finally, the rumors have proved to be true. Cody Rhodes returns. And so I liked this match a little bit better than the Becky Lynch Bianca Belair match. I gave this 4.25 stars. These guys really, really worked well together. And I just thought that this was really entertaining in ring work. And I'll say this, so far, everything that Leonard and I talked about is proving to be the case. So he came out, he got a big pop.
Yeah.
And we knew that he would. We knew that he would come out to a big pop. And, you know, there was a promo on Raw. We'll get there. But now is where it'll be interesting to see what happens to Cody Rhodes. So, Leonard, what did you think of the match, though?
Oh, I thought this is my number 2 match of the weekend. So kind of, I'm with you, but flipped a little bit, like very close. If I would give Becky and Bianca 4.25, this is 4 stars for me. They paid off what people were predicting, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think this was the best outcome that they could have done, and I'm glad that Cody did get a good reaction when he came out. I think they did a little too much shtick at the start. That was one thing that kind of got me out of it, and I think it took them a little bit to get into a groove.
Yeah, there was a lot of feeling out going on.
Yeah. Once it got going, it got really good. I like the arm work by Cody throughout. Then Seth starts working the ribs after the dropkick counter. The barricade bomb was cool. I like that spot. The inverted suplex from the top rope was cool, into the Dragon Sleeper Slam thing. I mean, the Cody Cutter should have been the finish. Again, you do something we've never seen before, but I'm going to keep going. The Rolling Crossroads, though, that could have been a good finish because it's a Rolling Crossroads. It's not just one. What I didn't like was he did the 2, and then he stopped, and he did the flip-flop and fly, and then did the 3rd. I understand doing the tribute to your dad, but you do that early. That's like the first couple minutes in. You do that.
I thought that was awkward as well.
As the transition, it's awkward where it was at.
The Cody Cutter was a move that he would do in AEW, by the way.
Okay, but what, top rope like that he did?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, because I knew the Cody Cutter was a thing, but I never had seen him doing like a flying one.
Yeah, it's kind of morphed into like a DDP type.
No doubt. Anyway.
Or RKO, yeah.
Good match.
So they announced the attendance as 77,899 for night 1. But, if you look at some of the tweets that I saw, it was around 65 potentially. Tickets sold, 65,000 thereabouts.
Here's the thing. Tickets sold isn't everybody in the building.
That's exactly what I was going to say. WWE always measures it by how many people are in the building. And so there you go. Make of that what you will. The next match was Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's title. And there were some botches here, but this was better than I expected it to be. And they moved at a really fast pace here. Mm-hmm. I gave this 3.75 stars. Like I said, I didn't expect this to be as good as what it was, but I liked it a lot. And one of the main reasons I liked it as much as I did is because the right person won.
Yeah, I did a fantasy pick'em, and this was the only match I missed on night 1 because all signs pointed to Rousey winning, of course. Right. And this was actually my number 4 match on the weekend. So of my top 5, 3 came from night 1. So you can tell I like night 1 a lot better than I like night 2. This was kind of awkward to start, and I didn't think I was going to like it. But the more it went on, the more I liked it as it went. I thought that Rousey was kind of dead in the water. But then the crowd was kind of blah. And I was like, yeah, they're not getting into this. But as soon as Rousey got on offense, they lit up. They popped everything she did. She blinked. They popped for it. So that kind of, proved me wrong. I thought she was not doing as well this time. I don't think she is ring-wise because they're not protecting her as much. But the crowd are still into her. I felt like they were trying to do more of an MMA-style match, especially early on.
More hard-hitting.
But it didn't. And what was up with that botched moonsault
Yeah.
Charlotte did. I don't know what that was. If that was just a botch.
See, I wondered if Rousey was out of position. Maybe I don't know. Who knows? Like,
yeah, because at first I thought she did a backflip. I thought she was going to do a backflip to a standing moonsault. I was like, well, that's kind of neat. It's kind of redundant.
That's what it usually is.
Yeah, and then she just kind of flopped. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's longer than I thought it was. It was about 18 minutes. I figured it would only be about 10. Flair winning was a surprise. As you said, I like Charlotte Flair. She is the cream of the women's division they have. Again, Charles Robinson's in there because he's the only referee that could probably take a bump and sell it right. And get up right. And this is great fuel for a rematch. Vince's thing is always the money's in the chase.
Right.
So I would predict that Rousey will get the belt at some point. I don't know if they're going to go all the way to SummerSlam. They might. But the fact that Charlotte did tap out with no referee to see it, I mean, that gives Rousey the ability to get that rematch. But the finish, while a little wonky, it works. And most of the finishes were clean or fairly clean on both nights. There wasn't a lot of overbooking with the finishes, aside from maybe drawing some of the matches out. But I did appreciate that.
Yeah, see, I'm going to be surprised if Rousey actually does a whole lot more. But we'll see. I don't know if she's in it long term.
Yeah, I do not know what her contract is. If it's something where she's leaving before the summer, no. But I think if even if they have her to say the end of the year, like next Rumble,
right?
I would assume that to get your money's worth out of her, you got to put the belt on her for at least a couple months.
Right. Well, our main event of night one was the KO show with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I was very surprised that this turned into what it was because we talked about it on the show. And this would turn into a no-holds-barred match between Kevin Owens and Stone Cold. And it goes without saying that Stone Cold moves a little bit slower. It's been 19 years, for goodness sakes. And the no-holds-barred aspect was put there to protect him, obviously. Yeah. And, Stone Cold is known as a brawler, and that's pretty much what this was. You had a nasty cut for Kevin Owens there. I believe it was on his back, if I'm not mistaken. And the gasp of the crowd when Kevin Owens stunned him, to me, was really, really great. I was hoping that they would at least let that happen. Like, nobody expected Kevin Owens to win, but I was hoping they would have Kevin Owens stun him because that would have gotten a reaction, and it did. So I thought that this was okay for what it was. It wasn't a Bret Hart, Vince McMahon embarrassment fest. No. It was fine for what it was, that you kind of understand why it was a match. His first match was in Dallas. His last match is in Dallas. We get that. I respect it. I gave this about 3 stars. I was fine with it. You had Byron Saxton get stunned. You had a moment with his brother. I'm glad we finally were able to learn who that was at that point. Like, he threw, I don't know if you noticed this, Leonard, he threw his brother a beer at one point. His brother dropped the beer in the stands. But that was before we really knew who that was, because he pointed to the crowd, and then he threw the guy a beer and he dropped it. And I was like, who the hell was that guy? And then he gets in the ring and you realize it's his brother. And that was a cool moment, though, too. So what did you think of this?
Yeah. Well, I didn't like the talking segment, the interview segment. I was bored by it. I was checking out. That was probably the only time of the night I've started. Well, I was texting you and our friend Ronnie, but other than that, that was when I was starting to check Facebook and stuff, because I was bored by them talking. It bored me. This, and of course, what we're going to talk about on night 2 was like a reverse bait and switch. Yeah. Because at the very beginning, it was, Owens and Austin are going to have a match. And then it becomes, no, they're not. It's going to be just a segment. And then it turns into a match. So, but I think you could have done the interview segment on SmackDown, make that the SmackDown main event, and use it to announce this on Saturday.
I agree.
To build to that. That's what I would have done. The match itself, like you said, it was what it was. It reminded me of a very old school ECW style match. with how they fought into the crowd, the use of few weapons, like a table. I mean, credit to Austin for some of the bumps he took, like the suplex on the concrete floor, the throw of Owens from over the barrier onto the announce table. I like that. That was kind of a neat thing. When they drove the ATV up the ramp to the entrance stage, I wondered if Austin could walk that far.
Right.
That's why they had to drive. The chair ricochet was kind of dumb, which led to the ending when he hit the chair off the ropes and Owens knocked himself with it. Did this match pop the crowd? Yeah. Was it the top thing people were talking about the next day? Yeah. So mission accomplished. I mean, it kind of still leaves a bit of a bad taste in my mouth because it shows a little bit about how creatively bankrupt and dependent on past stars they are. I mean, they had to dig decrepit Steve Austin out of the mothballs, to pop a quote unquote rating, not TV rating, but get eyeballs on the product.
Yeah.
But again, I like the idea that Austin was able to kind of go out more on his own power, this time. Yeah, it's been 19 years. He looked decent for his age and with all the health issues he's had. So I don't think I would have closed with this. It's risky to close with it. Yeah, it was the biggest thing that popped the crowd. I don't know what you would have to have followed it, but I don't know if I necessarily would have closed with this.
Right. Well, I mean, I understand why they closed with it. I will say that I do think that they should have announced this beforehand. I don't like the whole John Cena Undertaker thing with the WrestleMania. I forget which one it was. I don't understand this. We're going to tease this. We're not going to announce it officially, and we're just going to expect you to be excited about it when it just suddenly is introduced. Like, I don't get that. To me, that goes against the whole building of the anticipation for the weekend thing. To me,
yeah. Well, I think about on night one, you had Steve Austin is going to talk to Kevin Owens. That's not a match. You have Seth Rollins against a mystery opponent. We have no idea what that match is.
Right.
So you only really had the two women's matches as something fully announced ahead of time that you could push.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that ended night one. Night two, we would have Jessie James Decker singing America the Beautiful. And she was probably a little bit better than Bradley Gilbert. What do you think?
She was better. I don't know who she is. But she comes from the Mariah Carey school of just do a bunch of runs.
Right.
It's almost like I said with Paul and Dominic. It's like she is singing, but she doesn't know why she's singing that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the era we're in.
Yeah.
You would have Triple H introduce WrestleMania night 2. He would leave his boots in the ring, which I thought was a nice touch. And this would start off with a triple threat match for the Raw Tag Team titles between RK Bro, Alpha Academy, and the Street Profits. And in case you didn't hear our last show, this would mean that Randy Orton has now tied the Big Show for WrestleMania opening matches. He is at 4.
I think he can break it. I think I think he gets to 5 next year. He's going to get to 5.
Yeah, so I like this. I gave this 3 3/4 stars. Good work by all these teams. I like all these guys. They're, like I like Alpha Academy a lot. I like the Street Profits. All 6 guys, I think, do really good work. And I didn't expect RK Bro to lose, and they didn't. What do you think?
This match didn't do much for me. I mean, it was kind of there. I do agree with you. I like all 6 of these guys, but it's one of those multi-man matches where everybody gets a moment to shine, but doesn't really come together for a complete story. And I don't know if I like this match and the later women's tag match on the same night. I probably would put those on 2 different nights since they're multi-tag team matches. I believe I'm in the minority, even though you said you liked them too. I do like Otis and Gable, and I think it's one of those examples of where you had 2 guys that kind of stalled out, and you put them together, and they managed to get over.
Yeah.
kind of fight themselves.
Yeah.
To me, this kind of felt like a second hour, like top of the second hour Raw match. And actually, in that pick'em that I mentioned, I did. Most people didn't think RK Bro was going to retain.
They just got the titles, and the crowd loves them. So
right. I mean, yeah, they're the most
take it off of them.
Yeah, they're the most over thing you got. So why would you? Cool final sequence with the what was it? It was the double RKOs.
Oh yeah.
I just wrote cool final sequence, but I didn't write what the cool final sequence was, and I don't remember now.
It was really cool though.
Yes, it was cool. Whatever it wanted to be, it was cool. It wasn't memorable, but it was cool at the time. So yeah, this is. I think now as I said, I like night one a lot better than the night two. So I don't think this was as good as an opener as the night one opener. And I'll just say now, I would give night one probably an 8 to an 8.5 on a 10 scale. I'm going to give night two like a 5.5 to a 6. And we'll talk more about that as we go. But if you're comparing night to night, this was okay, but not as good. Even with the Boogs injury, I think I like that opener a lot better.
And we forgot to mention that right after this triple threat match, you would have Gable Steveson and Chad Gable get into a confrontation, which it makes sense, but it's just
the loser can no longer be Gable.
You can see a mile away what they're doing, and like they're just gonna have Chad Gable like get squashed by this guy, and I don't see the point. Like, I understand pushing Gable Steveson, I get it, but like both of these guys have wrestling experience, amateur wrestling experience, so like make it good. I don't know. They're not gonna do that though.
They'll make it terrible on purpose.
Yeah. Next up, we had Bobby Lashley versus Omos. And I was dreading that they were just going to have Bobby Lashley get squashed by this guy. I was like, oh, God, this guy's like Bobby Lashley's been world champion twice in like the past year. Like, and now they're just going to have him get, stomped by this dude. But thankfully, Bobby Lashley won. The match itself was nothing. It was a star and 3/4 for me. But I'm glad Bobby Lashley won. And I'm, because where are they going to go with Omos? Nowhere.
Well, this was in the pick'em I did. This was the match I missed on night 2.
Okay.
Because I figured Omos would win.
I would have gotten it wrong too if I had predicted.
Yeah, because he's the star in the making. Lashley could absorb any loss just fine. I know Omos is green, but he's a huge physical specimen. The crowd seems to be into him. He's got a standard big move set, but like those clubbing blows to start the match with had a smack to him. You could hear him.
The Undertaker's gone though. Who's he gonna feud with?
I know. Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Marco Stunt. They're gonna hire Marco Stunt specifically to feud with Omos.
Did you hear that rumor, by the way, about the mystery opponent thing with Marco Stunt?
No, I had not heard. That was the rumor I hadn't heard.
Apparently, his contract with AEW, if it hasn't ended already, it will end soon. So, like, people were legit. I don't know if it was. I guess it was a joke. We're saying that like he was going to be signed and that he was going to be the mystery opponent. I think that's hilarious. They're never going to hire Marco Stunt. But...
No. But yeah. The press slam I thought was impressive. It was kind of slow. It felt longer than it was. This was probably. Well, we're getting to something later. I would say this is maybe close to being the worst match for me of night 2. And one of my
this isn't the one I rated the lowest. Now that I'm
yes, but it would be cool. It would be close for me. I would say this is probably my second lowest match of night 2, and probably of the weekend as well.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. Well, our next match. I'm going to preface our next match by saying so. I've been stuck in the house here for a little bit, and because it's on Paramount Plus, I decided for night 2 to watch Jackass Forever, just because it's there, it's free, and I was like, you know what, I'll watch Jackass Forever. And it was a Jackass movie.
I don't think my wife and I have watched it yet. She likes Jackass. She actually watched this match with me.
Yeah, the movie itself is fun. If you like the other ones and you find entertainment value in them, then you'll like jackass forever. And I say that because, of course, the next match is Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. Anything goes. And this was my favorite thing of the weekend, Leonard. I know you're going to hate when I say it. Like,
This was my number 3 match. This is my number 3 match of the weekend.
I loved this so much, and I didn't think I would. But the way they did this, and I'm going to say now, because I watched the movie, it was almost like the perfect, like, prologue for this match, because there were some people that got in there that I didn't know who they were by name if I hadn't watched the movie. So I thought that this was great. It was ridiculous, zany, fun, but the crowd was so into this. And the fact that we're seeing memes that compare Hogan slamming Andre with Wee Man slamming Sami Zayn, to me is just gold. So, I mean, in-ring technicality, you can't really rate this for that, but I gave, for sheer entertainment value, I gave this 4.5 stars.
You know what? I will surprise you. This is my number 3 match of the weekend. I absolutely adored this. Like I said, my wife watched it with me. She loved it. We had a great time. And she made a brilliant observation, I thought. Sami Zayn did a jackass sketch instead of Johnny Knoxville being forced to wrestle a match.
And you know what? I'll tell you, I hope that whoever, Vince and everybody in the back, I hope they gave a tip of the top hat to Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
There are not many people that would have done what he did there.
Yeah. And two, because Jenny said this, she thought that Knoxville, wasn't supposed to, do stuff like this anymore, that he had, had severe head trauma and that. And I said, Sammy's one, like, the safest workers that they probably have.
Yeah.
And willing to work with Johnny. Like, if I had to have a match, Sami would probably be one of the guys I would trust to protect me, because
they gave Johnny Knoxville, Sami Zayn, and Steve Austin, Kevin Owens.
Yes, because they're going to. Kevin would be another guy that I would trust to protect me. So, I mean, if you're going to use Knoxville, this was the best use of him. A lot of weird weapons, let him get thrown around, let the jackass guys help him out. The mousetrap table was freaking genius. I love that. That's something we've never seen before. My wife called Wee Man after she saw Pontius. She's like, I hope Wee Man comes out, and then he did.
Right.
The giant hand gimmick was funny as hell. And I know Mark Henry tweeted that he was proud of his son debuting at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Fantastic.
The extra large mousetrap for the finish, I thought was overkill, and it didn't work right. Johnny basically had to bust it to make it work.
there was a
tip to Johnny for making it work, though.
Yeah, he did. He immediately changed course.
Yeah, he immediately, like, this isn't gonna work. Oh, and the shoe, the nut kicking, the automatic nut kicker device, that didn't quite work either. I don't think they workshopped that one enough.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, I agree with you. This was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, in the fact that it just leaned into the craziness of it. It just took it by the horns and was what it was. It was good.
Yeah. The next match was for the ladies' tag team titles. You had Carmella and Queen Zelina versus Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Liv for Brutality versus Natalya and Shayna Baszler. And I gave this 3 stars. It was a obvious change in approach to what we had seen previously. Mm-hmm. And this was just, these girls all tried to do fine work, but this was, we need to fit as many of these ladies onto the card as we can to get them a paycheck. And you had Sasha Banks and Naomi win, which I did not predict. I would have predicted Liv for Brutality to win this, but yeah, so you have new ladies tag team champs. This was okay for what it was. Leonard?
There's too many people here, like you said. I was just trying to fit everyone to get a paycheck. Most of those teams felt like they were cobbled together. Again, I don't know who's hanging out with who on a regular basis. I think Ripley and Morgan versus Banks and Naomi would have been fine. Just do that. Also, what was up with Carmella's mask? What is that story?
Apparently, it's supposed to protect her beautiful face.
Okay, because my wife saw that and was scared. She thought it was like something you would see in a horror movie.
It's creepy and stupid.
Yes. We know what they need to do. They need to do some sort of angle where it gets stuck on her face and she can't take it off. Like a Man in the Iron Mask.
Like they're doing this weird angle with her and Corey Graves, who are, legit getting married.
Yes.
In real life. But like they're doing this whole PDA thing on camera now. And I just don't, I'm happy for them, but I don't care. So, yeah.
And the end of this match totally broke down. There was so much illegal stuff going on. Again, the referee did nothing to keep order here. There was illegal tags. I know it's a slap tag because of the way the thing is, but there was a tag at one point where Zelina Vega, I think, was on the outside of the ring on the ropes, and the tag was her getting shoved to the floor. How the hell does that count?
Yeah. Well,
the double Tower of Doom spot was cool. That was it. That was anything I liked about this match. This would be one of my bottom 5 of the weekend.
Yeah. Your next match was Edge versus AJ Styles. I liked this a lot. I liked it about as much as I liked Cody and Seth Rollins. I gave this 4.25 stars. And the ending was fine for what it was. It was an obvious setup for what will be, from what I understand anyway, an Edge stable. And you had a new member join him today during this match, which was cool. And it was this match. You expected it to be pretty good, and it was good. So what do you think?
This was my number 5 match of the weekend, but I was still extremely disappointed by it. It was not nearly as good as I thought it was going to be. You could tell that they positioned this to be the wrestling match. For night 2. It was almost 25 minutes. I did think it was nicely paced, but slower than some of the other stuff that we had seen. Nice story. I mean, told playing off of the different injuries and how they're both older guys. It was a very classic style wrestling match, so you think I would have liked it, but there was, I don't know, it kind of bored me to a degree. Nice work on the shoulder by Edge, good selling by AJ with that. I feel like I should say more, but I can't really find it. I'm like, it's a good match. But next year, when you ask people, hey, what were your favorite matches from last year? What do you remember from last year? This one isn't going to get named. I don't think people are going to remember this one off the top of their heads. I didn't like Priest coming out and just standing there was a waste. Like, I hate that type of distraction. Like, he doesn't have to interfere. He has to do something. He has to yell at Styles. He has to mix it up somehow. He just stands there like this, and AJ Styles like, oh my God, Jimmy Priest, and like loses.
That was how he reacted. You're right.
That's exactly how he reacted, and I hate that type of interference. Standing there should not be considered interference.
Should have said something at least, because this interference was pretty much based solely on camera angle. Like, if you look at the camera angle, it's like, okay, well, he's in AJ's eyesight. I mean, AJ noticed him, but it's like, in the big scheme of things, all he had to do was yell, hey, or AJ, or whatever.
Yeah, just distract him. In my opinion, this is what knocks it down. That knocked it down probably a half a star at least for me, because I think it's the finish that makes AJ look stupid and Edge look weak, because he can't win without some guy just standing there.
Right.
So and again, you could tell, like, that upset me how bad that was. And this match also had the referee I hate, and she didn't do it any favors. So
yeah, I can tell your anger.
Yes.
They announced the attendance after this, and they messed that up. And the announcer announced the attendance as 77,453, but the display said 78,453. And I don't really care either way, but it just goes to show you, do they even know? Probably not. The next match was initially cut from night 1, but they put it here. Sheamus and Ridge Holland with Butch.
Just cut it all together.
Yeah. Versus Kofi and Xavier of the New Day. I gave this a 1.5 stars. This was very short. I didn't like it. I don't know what they're doing with poor Pete Dunne. You want to talk about anger. like they name him Butch, and they want him to like be akin to like one of the dogs on a cartoon who just hops around all the time. Like I don't understand. Pete Dunne is so great.
Yeah.
And he's such a great heel. I don't understand. So I didn't like this. I don't think this match was necessary other than, I guess, to get these guys to check. But Leonard?
Yeah, it was barely a match. I mean, if you add the pre-match stuff and the actual match, I don't think it altogether was 5 minutes. I don't know if this was a time issue or if Xavier is still too injured to work a full match. I know booking got changed because what happened with Big E, that this was originally going to be a 6-man.
Right.
It was pretty physical and up-tempo. It certainly puts Sheamus's stable over really, really strong. And that's about all you can say about them.
Yeah. So after this, they would do recaps of night one. Well, throughout this whole night, they would do recaps of night one, I should say. After that, though, they would have the Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory match. You would have Vince McMahon at ringside for this. This particular match, I gave about 2.5 stars. Pat McAfee is not somebody you're going to see in the ring on a regular basis. You know, he did some interesting stuff in this, and I was surprised to see him get the win. Genuinely, because if memory serves, I think they just had Austin Theory main event an MSG house show with Brock Lesnar. So, I don't know what the theory is, no pun intended, behind this booking. But, this was what it was. Like I said, this WrestleMania was very celebrity heavy, and so this was what it was. They tried to make this a feud. I don't know if anybody really cared, but the crowd seemed to be into some of the stuff McAfee was doing. So what did you think?
McAfee was crazy over. I was kind of surprised by that, but it's just good that he played for an AFC team that nobody in Dallas gives a damn about.
Yeah, that's true.
If he had punted for like Washington or
the Eagles,
or the Eagles or something like that, yeah,
he would have gotten booed right out of the building.
Yeah, booed out of the building.
I never thought about that. That's funny.
Yeah, nobody cares about the Colts down there. It's fine.
That's right.
I don't get the whole McMahon and Theory deal. Like, I know how they set that up and all that. I don't see where it really fits. It was kind of funny to see them together and like Vince getting a selfie with Theory. Like, that kind of made me laugh. And props to Vince for licensing music. The Pat McAfee came out the 7 Nation Army.
Yeah.
So in the past 20 years, him and CM Punk are the only guys to get licensed music for themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often.
No. I was surprised by how much juice this match had. Like that people were into it. Like you said, the crowd was very hot for this. McAfee's moves was okay. No real flow. Again, he kind of did something and then walked around, did something. When McAfee bumped Theory off the apron, I wanted him to land on McMahon. I thought that would have been hilarious. He picked up and I can't remember if it was Cole or Saxon was like, "Oh, McAfee's calling his own match. No one's ever done that before." I'm like, The Rock did it like 87 times. The Rock did it every friggin' night.
Right.
Great height on that swanton that McAfee did.
Yeah.
The backflip out of the superplex followed by the leap up. I mean, McAfee has mad ups. I give him that. He's pretty athletic. And the place went unglued when he won. And actually, I lied earlier. I did miss this match too on the pick'em because I figured that they would put Theory over via McMahon interference.
Right.
But then we get a bonus match.
Yeah. Then we did get a bonus match with McAfee challenging Vince McMahon, which.
Same thing as night one. It was the bait. It was the reverse bait and switch. McAfee McMahon was what was initially promised. They backed out of it very long time ago.
Yeah.
And then they decided to deliver that anyway.
Yeah. And this was probably my lowest rated match of the night, Leonard. I gave this half a star.
This would be my lowest, yes.
And one of the things, I'm not even going to comment on the in-ring stuff. I mean, Vince, for his age, obviously is still in shape. We all know that.
Not as big as he used to be, but may I be in such good shape in my mid-70s.
I hope I'm not the only person that noticed that Vince McMahon missed his cue. But if you go back, Leonard, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I need you to go back and look at it. So right after he wins, like he's in the ring with Theory, and Theory's music hits very briefly, and Vince thinks that's Stone Cold's music. He assumes that that's what's happening, and so he like reacts like wide-eyed, and then a couple seconds later, the glass breaks.
Oh, I didn't notice. I didn't notice. No.
I urge everybody to go back and watch that.
Okay.
It does indeed happen. So yeah, Stone Cold comes out. This is WWE playing the hits.
Yeah.
And I just want to basically comment on the stunner cells here. In 1 2-minute span of time, you had one of the best stunner cells I've ever seen, and what is easily the worst stunner I've ever seen anybody take. And the only person that did it worse was Vince himself way back when. And, Austin Theory's stunner cell was amazing. It made Scott Hall's from WrestleMania 18.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Right. But it was similar. Yeah. But then Vince McMahon loses his balance, I guess. You hate to laugh. It was so funny though. Like Vince's cell was just god awful, and you could even see a smile on Austin's face after that happened, because even he knew it was shit. So, but yeah, what do you think of this whole shenanigans?
Was what it was.
Right.
And as I said, it's just the reverse bait and switch. Vince is too old to be in there, even for a 2-minute match with McAfee. Austin, I don't think this added much to the overall, and I don't think Austin coming out added much to the overall. You could have just had McAfee winning and taken that pop and moved on.
Yeah, and this I guess was this. It tells me that, like, I guess a lot of people some people went to night 1, some people went to night 2, but they wanted to give the night 2 people Stone Cold in some way, which I understand. And of course, your main event was the winner take all, champion versus champion, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I gave this 3 stars. I don't think that this was the best outing that these two have had at all. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a Brock Lesnar fan, and I don't like what they're doing. I like Roman Reigns as heel, but I don't like what they're doing with his title reign, because I know what they're doing with it. And so I was disappointed in the winner here. And now this tells me more than ever, and I don't know who specifically they want him to break the record of, but they mentioned it many times going into this, that who is it? Pedro, Bruno, Hogan, and Backlund, I think, are the 4 that still are above him in terms of number of days holding the belt. And that's exactly what they're going for. They had that weird kick there for a while where they wanted to break records. They had, I forget who it was, break CM Punk's title reign.
Was it Styles?
It was somebody. I forget who it was. But the point is, WWE goes through these like little trends where they want to break records. And that's clearly what they're doing. Like, they want him to break. I'm assuming they're going to have him at least break Hogan's, and if not Backlund's. I think the other 2 guys are on top of those, but
yes.
So yeah.
I believe in order. If you want to say consecutive days, I believe it's Hogan, Backlund, Pedro, Bruno from the bottom up.
Right.
And Bruno had it for like years, so I don't know.
It was like over 1,000 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so this match was fine. I thought it ended kind of abruptly. Again, I didn't expect this to go to Reigns. I really didn't. So I was a little bit disappointed, because at this point, then where do you go with Roman Reigns? But what did you think of this?
I think they're hoping for The Rock.
See, I would guess that too, but I don't know.
I think they're holding out for The Rock. If it's not next year, it'll be for 40. They're holding out, and that match doesn't need the title belt, but
no, not at all.
They may want it to have the title belt. I don't know.
Right.
We've seen this too much. I don't think anybody thought Lesnar was going to win. I didn't think he was going to win. Everyone. That pick 'em I did. I think one person took Lesnar maybe, and that was the guy that always picks opposite of everybody because he thinks it gives him an advantage. But think about it. If you're picking opposite every single time, you're just going to wind up with either the same record as everyone if you're right, because you're the other way, or it's not going to work out for you. 12 minutes was what I was figuring time wise. I didn't think it would get to 15, but figured it'd be over 10. I guess, this is what you would guess. Lesnar controlled early with power moves. Reigns came back. The barricade spear was cool. The crowd seemed kind of out of this one. Like they weren't really into it too much. The spear into the Kimura was cool. I liked how Heyman kind of, razzed. That's not the right word I'm looking for. But got rallied. That was the word I was looking for. Rallied Reigns, it was really, giving him, hey, you got to get up, you got to do it, my tribal chief. Heyman is so good. Heyman might, at the end of the day, be the best manager of all time, above Heenan for me, above Cornette for me, because my God, he's on such another level.
He's certainly in the conversation.
Yeah, especially with the work he's done in the past few years. That's been amazing. But that was good. Again, kind of what we expected. And while we're here, before I throw it back to you, I would just like to say the two nights to me had the same template. It was 3 or 4 filler matches because we have to have something, 2 or 3 matches that look good on paper, and 1 or 2 complete spectacle car wrecks that we know are going to pop the crowd and people are going to talk about. And I would almost guarantee you that's the formula they're going to use. They're probably going to do 2 night shows from now on of WrestleManias. And that's the formula that they're probably going to use. And you're going to see the celebrity interaction. You're going to see the old star coming back. You're going to see this template pretty much copied from here on out, I would guess, until they would move on to another style or era.
Well, we know they're doing 2 nights next year. It's going to be WrestleMania in Hollywood in Los Angeles. So I mean, you're probably right. Overall, I will say that I enjoyed the weekend a lot. I didn't expect to like WrestleMania really at all because there wasn't a ton I was looking forward to.
No.
But there were a lot of good matches, some that surprised me. And overall, I do think it was a lot of fun. I will comment very quickly on the Raw after WrestleMania, which they're still pushing that as like a big thing, and it's not anymore. It's just not anymore. And I was at the Raw after WrestleMania that everybody looks back on as kind of the start of that, where everybody was chanting random stuff.
Yeah, chanting weird stuff.
And that was a great experience, but that's not the case anymore because Raw isn't the #1 show anymore. And, but they still want you to think that it is in this case, and it's just not. So I'll comment on a few things that happened. They had Cody Rhodes open up Raw, and it was a very interesting reaction in that when he came out, there was no pop whatsoever. It was crickets, but then eventually there was a lot of cheering and chanting when he got into the ring. It was a very heartfelt promo about his family and whatnot. He was milking the crowd as much as he possibly could. They wanted it to, I think they're trying to make you think that it was like this really great reaction a la Hogan in Montreal or something, but it was a weird reaction. But
I don't think Cody is as over as he thinks he is.
That's always been the case, though, right?
It's always been the case. And I know people would say, oh, WWE fans know who Cody Rhodes is. He was there before. Well, he was Stardust. He has been around for, 6 years. And to say that the WWE audience watches AEW, especially that casual WrestleMania crowd, no.
No. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. You then had there was another segment with Kevin Owens coming out talking about his match with Steve Austin. And the reason I mention this is because the most awkward introduction ever was in the middle of Kevin Owens' promo. You had the introduction of Ezekiel. Do you know who Ezekiel is?
Ezekiel Jackson.
No. See?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See, when I saw the letters Ezekiel before the person came out, I was like, Ezekiel Jackson? But no. And this guy comes out to new music and nobody knows who he is at first. It's just this very kind of generic look. And in 1 minute, Kevin Owens buries this poor guy. And he looks at him and he's like, Elias, is that you? Because it's Elias without the beard. He has new tights, no beard, shorter hair, I should say.
Okay.
And the crowd starts laughing. And he's supposed to be Elias's younger brother, Ezekiel.
That's stupid.
I feel so bad for Elias.
I like Elias. I've always.
I liked that gimmick, and you can see on this guy's face that he does not like this. You can see it, but he's there and he wants to try to make it work, I guess. But I like to think I'm a good person at reading people, and I can tell you right now, this guy is miserable in what he's doing because he knows it's not going to get over. He knows.
No. Well, how are they going to? If he is actually supposed to be Elias's brother, where's Elias?
Right. And
what are they going to do if the two of them are supposed to be together? Because he can't grow a beard and long hair back overnight.
No. So, yeah. And you know what? There was no reason for him coming out to Kevin Owens. He didn't challenge Kevin Owens. He didn't say anything. He literally just came out to the ring. Kevin Owens made fun of him. He said, I'm Elias's younger brother. And that was it. It was so weird to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. If he's coming out, you would think he's challenging Owens.
Nothing.
He would like make fun of Owens or something to start something. If it's just, I'm here now.
He just basically came out to get insulted by Kevin Owens. Which,
it's nothing. There's nothing for you.
We finally saw the debut of Veer Mihan.
That's been back. I believe I was watching wrestling when Veer Mihan first was supposed to debut. I believe Tommy Rich was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion when they showed the first video.
He came out and attacked the Mysterios. And you had a rematch between Braun Breaker and Dolph Ziggler for the NXT title on Raw. And it wasn't as good as their Stand and Deliver match, but Braun Breaker did win the NXT title back here. Okay, so that ends that. They wanted to have him win it on Raw, I guess, which is pretty cool. But the crowd, a lot of those crowd that didn't know who Braun Breaker was. So
did they tell them that it was Rick Steiner's son?
Oh, they mention it all the time.
Yes, I know. The crowd, but the live crowd. Did they tell the live crowd?
No, I don't think so.
What you needed to do was have the Steiners walk him out.
See, that would have been cool. But it also would have made me angry because why is his name Braun Breaker?
Right. We discussed that. That makes me angry too. And again, because if you're not going to play up the fact that he's related to somebody, then that's okay. That's fine. But if you are going to say it every single time, then why doesn't he have the same name? Right. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And it used to be all about that kind of stuff. Like Dwayne Johnson had to be Rocky Maivia because your dad was Rocky Johnson and your grandpa was Peter Maivia. Like you had to be Rocky Maivia.
Right. The only other thing that happened, I didn't watch the entirety of Raw because the NCAA championship was on, but I did see the segment with Edge and Damian Priest, and I thought it was funny because the crowd started to chant, "We don't care," to Damian Priest. And nice. Then Damian Priest, to his credit, was like, there was a time when that would bother me. And then Edge was like, "Not anymore, losers," as he looks at the crowd. So it was kind of funny,
Do they have another guy yet? I thought they were supposed to add some other people.
I think there's supposed to be a stable. That's what I've read anyway. But we'll see what happens there. And the guy, one of the guys, the members of House of Black from AEW, tweeted out a picture of Edge and Damian Priest saying, "This is what you get when you order the House of Black on Wish.com." So because they're going for a similar approach, clearly. But anyway, that's about all I have to comment on Raw. Thank you for joining us on this lengthy recap of the WrestleMania weekend. We watched everything for you. Specifically,
what Chad did. I just watched what I was told to watch.
Yeah. But it was a lot. It was fun to watch all this stuff, and we hope you enjoyed our show. Let us know what you thought of the WrestleMania card, the NXT card, the Hall of Fame, whatever you watched, let us know what your thoughts were. And if you agree or disagree with us, please check us out on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify if you'd rather listen to us. Hit the like button on our YouTube video and subscribe to our channel. And for Leonard, my name is Chad, and Alexa will see you out.